Hello everyone and welcome back to the Belgian Beer Brothers channel. Cedric here with another brewery breakdown. Now today we are gonna talk about I believe the very first brewery, or at least craft brewery, that I've ever visited in my life, back when I was about 15 or 16 years old on a school trip even, so that's about 20 years ago. And that actually reminds me that I really need to go back sometime because a lot has happened in those 20 years. Now I am talking about brewery the Halve Maan in Bruges, or the Half Moon. Brewery the Halve Maan, which we know from beers like Straffe Hendrik, Brugse Zot, and more recently Bruges Starbebier, started out in 1856. But the origins of brewing on this very site dates back to at least 1546. Back in the 16th century, just like many other cities, Bruges was home to over 50 breweries, one of which was Brewery de Maan, or the Moon. At one point in time, the site got split in two, and one half was repurposed. And when Henry Leon Maas, or Henry the First, because we're gonna see a lot of Henrys today in true Omer tradition, when Henry bought the brewery, so the other half, he changed its name to the Halve Maan, or the Half Moon, a bit tongue-in-cheek there. At first, not much changed. Henry modernized the brewery, but kept brewing a slightly acidic top-fermented beer in wooden barrels and distributed it with his horse-drawn carriage within the city, just like De Maan had done for centuries, and as was customary in that region. Bear in mind that Bruges is in the middle of West Flanders, the region that is still known today for its Flemish reds and oud bruin and such, so the more sour or acidic beers. Now, after Henry Leon, or Henry I, passed away in 1867, his sons Henry II and Ascher inherited the brewery, and inspired by the ongoing Industrial Revolution, Henry II traveled to England, determined to learn about all the modern techniques, and he came back with a plan and with a lot of ideas actually. In the 1870s, they added a malting and a kiln floor, and inspired by Henry's stay in England, they started brewing English-style beers like stout and pale ale. And this innovation took off, and in the early 1880s they managed to invest even more in the brewery. So they put in a state-of-the-art steam kettle in order to step up production. Unfortunately, both brothers died very unexpectedly in 1905. I don't really know how, but leaving the brewery in the hands of their grieving widows. So the sisters-in-law managed to keep the brewery up and running, and even got through the First World War without too much damage. Before the next generation, Henry III was old enough and wise enough to take the reins in his hands in 1919. Just like his father traveled to England to learn new techniques, Henry III went off to Germany, not as a post-war obsession thingy. He was just eager to learn, and the Germans were the world's standard in brewing in those days. And just like his father, he came back with a head full of knowledge and a lot of ideas and some new beer styles. Because in Germany back at the time, he learned the concept of low fermentation brewing and tasted beers like lagers, pilsners, kolsch. Needless to say, the Halve Maan went into the low fermentation business. In 1928, a cooling installation was added to the brewery, and Pilsner and Bock beer were launched. Quite successfully, I might add, because sales went up, money came in, and the Halve Maan grew once more. And quite a bit actually. This time the growth didn't point to new beer styles. In the 1930s and 40s, they started exploring the newly introduced soft drinks market, mainly in the 40s after the Second World War. And following the success of Coca-Cola, amongst others, that found their way to here, to Belgium, to Europe. So under the brand name Domino, they delivered to people's houses, still by horse-drawn carriage. And since they were the only ones doing this, and people made such use of this convenience, sales went through the roof. This was a golden era for the Halve Maan. And this even lasted until convenience stores and supermarkets became popular in the 1970s, but I'm getting ahead of myself here. The Halve Maan thrived so much in the 1930s and early 40s that in 1946 they managed to buy the neighboring brewery because yes, there was another brewery right next door to the Halve Maan. It was called Bruges Zeehaven or Bruges Sea Harbor, and yeah, they just incorporated it into the building. So this kicked off a huge renovation, a huge expansion. Parts were moved, machines were renewed, and they put in a cool ship, traded the malting and kiln floor for much larger models, and production scaled up again. So by the 1950s, the fourth generation, Henry IV, joined the team, and in 58 he officially took over, even though his father kept looking over his shoulder. The brewery kept going strong throughout the 60s until they hit a bump in the road in the 70s, as I mentioned. Like I said, convenience stores became more and more popular. Everything was there, so home delivery went into decline. The logical next step would have been to give up home deliveries and deliver straight to the supermarkets, but unfortunately the Halve Maan's production wasn't big enough to guarantee a steady supply to these stores. Now, the Halve Maan struggled for a while, but kept its head above water, and in 1981 they received a request to brew a limited offer beer in honor of the inauguration of the new St. Arnold statue in Bruges. Henry IV agreed to brew this beer and saw this as an opportunity or a chance to start a project with his daughter, a special brew with Veronique Maas, daughter of Henry IV, and well, what do you know? First non-Henry in 5 generations, also one of the first female brewers. For the rest of this story, I'll refer you guys to the Straffe Hendrik video, the quadruple video, where I explain how Straffe Hendrik brand and the brewery came quite the way during the 80s and 90s. In the meantime, Veronique and her husband had a son, not called Henry, but Xavier van Neste, and in 1997 she and her father made a lot of changes to the brewery. They actually scaled down a bit and became a house brewery. They allowed outsiders to visit the brewery and even host festivities. They also kept the old machines as a sort of industrial historic museum, and in 2005 they even took in the entire historical collection of former brewery De Gouden Boom, or the Golden Tree, also known as het Hamerke, which was actually a distillery, and which had a history similar to the Halve Maan, since it also dated back to the 16th century in Bruges, and it actually has links to Geuze Brewery Bonn as well. Unfortunately, it was bought by Palm in 2003, or now Swinkels Family Brewers, and after moving production away from Bruges, the site was sold off to put in apartments and condos. Enough side stories, let's not make this a 30-minute maze of a video. Back to the Halve Maan. So after going into decline for a while, Xavier pushed through to restart the brewery and to restore it in its former honor. After Riva took over and actually took away Straffe Hendrik in 2002, they got to renovating the brewhouse, and in 2005 they launched a brand new beer called Bruges Zot. The beer took off immediately, and it went so well that the brewery was forced to expand again. Ever since bottling in-house became too much work, the Halve Maan outsourced this to brewery Huyghe in Melle, which you might know from beers like Delirium Tremens and the Pink Elephants. But in 2010 the Halve Maan built a bottling plant and a logistics center just outside the city at about a 10-minute drive. However, the city of Bruges and its inhabitants weren't too happy about all the trucks driving through their beautiful, tranquil historical city center all day long. After all, in 2014, an entire new brewhouse was installed to future-proof the brewery, and they just kept on growing, which meant more and more beer and thus more and more trucks. And since the Halve Maan wasn't too keen on moving either, they reached a compromise in 2016. They installed the world's first beer pipeline underneath the city, from the brewery to the bottling plant, and they actually invested 4 million euros to put a 3,276 meter, or roughly 2 mile, long pipeline at a depth of 34 meters in some places to reduce traffic and, of course, to reduce costs in the long run as well. And with a brewing capacity of around 50,000 hectoliters in that year, just imagine how much traffic they cancelled out, and also how much they saved on fuel, on maintenance, on personnel. Although they did triple their number of employees in, well, about 10 years. So the Halve Maan truly is a brewery of firsts. After launching the first Belgian quadruple in 2010, again, and the world's first underground beer pipeline in 2016, they added another first to the list in 2018, the first Belgian alcohol-free craft beer. They launched this in the Bruges Zot line as a sportzot, and it became hugely popular and started a revolution in low and no alcohol beers. Nowadays, the brewery thrives once more, and even more than before. That was a Dr. Seuss sentence. They introduce new beers from time to time, like the Sportzot, their Heritage series, and Brugse Bock, and they already replaced that old bottling plant from 2010 with a brand new one with 3 times the capacity. So now they can bottle 24,000 bottles or 180 kegs per hour. Currently, they're working on a green project as well, with a water treatment plant and solar panels, which was crowdfunded within 1 day, which says a lot about the brewery's popularity as well. So yeah, I'd say keep it up, the Halve Maan. I kind of love their beers, and I hope to see much more of them. As usual, if you guys like this video, hit that thumbs up, let me know. If you have any questions, remarks, or I don't know, something I didn't know or didn't treat in this video, let me know down in the comments. And if you want to see more, hit subscribe, hit the bell icon, you'll be the first to know whenever I upload something. Now, if you want to support this channel, just share one of my videos somewhere. Okay, that all being said, I'll see you guys again tomorrow for a brew review. Cheers, you guys.